On November 24th, 2022, I was sitting in a quiet reading nook in my university library, with my finger hovering over the upload button of my channel's intro theme, and thought, what the hell, sure. And ever since then, it's been off to the races. Hi, I'm Chrono the Harlequin, and welcome back to Live from the Black Library, where today I want to talk to you about my channel's 3rd anniversary, and what the future holds for me and Live from the Black Library. And first and foremost, I just want to thank all of you for such an amazing year. And my journey getting here has been nothing short of fascinating. You see, as many of you will know, I actually got my start on the channel where I used to post voice-acted memes and video edit memes, where I would put the heads of Warhammer characters above various clips and vines and so on. And I did that for a time, but the reason I started taking it seriously in early 2022 was out of spite. You see, I had actually fallen out with a group of friends I had online, and while that was certainly no great loss, I thought, you know what, why don't I just go ahead and get bigger than all of those people? It wouldn't be that hard. So first I started with the memes, but then I kind of had a crisis. I realized, if I disappear, like I just stop uploading to this channel, some of these memes would still keep hovering around on the internet, but I would not be remembered. So I resolved to make sure I would be. And that's how this channel was born exactly 3 years ago to the day. And now here I am, bigger than all of those people by an order of magnitude. Unfortunately, this year, I don't think I uploaded nearly as much as I wanted to, and a large part of that is because I was finishing university. But in June of 2025, I graduated with a specialist degree in journalism, a minor in public law, and a minor in history, and I could not be happier. It's actually a funny thing, I interned with a large federal newspaper, one of the 3 largest in my country, and I was hoping I would get a job with them, so I started applying to all the positions I could. But I got to the final round of interviews for a position, a local journalist in a small town. That's pretty interesting, right? But what happened was, they got back to me and said, hey, we almost hired you, but instead we're gonna be going with this guy who's freelanced for us for 7 years. For this entry-level reporter position. And that's the moment you really think, okay, YouTube, please, God. Because, oh my God, if you think the job market is bad in the United States, come to Canada. It's so much worse here. Honestly, I cannot express how lucky I am that YouTube is doing well for me, and how grateful I am to all of you for letting me do this. Not just because it's my dream and my passion and something almost everybody wants to be doing, but very few people can hack these days, just out of sheer lack of luck, but also because this has very much changed the trajectory of what I want to do with my life and my career going forward. If I had never gotten into YouTube, who knows where I would be and what track I would be on. But now that I'm here, and it's really working for me, and I see this as the viable path forward for me, it's very clear that things have shifted in regard to what I want to do with my life, and I owe all of that to you guys. So what then does the future hold for me? Well, as many of you know, I am starting a history YouTube channel. Well, I say starting in air quotes given that it's been up for a while and has a few videos, but hasn't been touched in quite some time. I am so sorry about that, but the problem is I realized that the way I was making those videos, creating each slide manually with every single asset again and again and again, was very, very time-consuming and wasn't letting me work on this channel. So I'm currently retooling it to be almost fully illustrated in the same vein as like overly sarcastic productions or extra history. And that's something that's had a fair few issues of its own. I'm also currently working on another more Wendigoon-esque channel that covers darker, more real-world topics. But that one I'm actually not going to be advertising here because I kind of want to test myself. See if I can actually be successful on YouTube without relying on the name I've already built for myself. Was this just a fluke? Was this just because it was Warhammer? Or can I hack this on my own 2 feet? I really have to know. But if all goes well, I will eventually share that channel with you guys as well. You see, the difference between that and the history channel is the fact that the history channel has to be very meticulously researched and scripted and illustrated, but the macabre channel will be a lot more like this one, in that I'm gonna do a fair amount of research and reading, but generally speaking, it won't be as scripted, and I'm just gonna kind of yap based on maybe a couple notes if I even make any. For those of you who actually don't know, this channel has no writing or notes. I literally just do all this off the dome. The only exceptions are when I'm doing my research prior to actually recording and reading novel excerpts, and hey, that's a formula that's been working quite well for me. This year alone, I managed to get 18,700 subscribers. That is insane to me. And even that is when I was really busy and at times very burnt out. so I only published 28 full-length videos this year. Going into the 4th year of my channel, my goal is to publish around 45 to 50 videos, as well as getting both of my other channels off the ground. I do have things more properly planned out and sorted with the History channel, and that was a very valuable learning experience. However, it might take some time before that channel is profitable given how expensive each individual video is going to be, so the Darker Horror channel will be important with regard to shoring up my finances and keeping everything running. But that is actually not the biggest thing. As many of you already know, I'm actually in the process of making my own tabletop game, and I don't plan this to just be something you can buy a few miniatures for and play with a few friends. I mean, you certainly could and should do that, but I'm actually trying to create a very real franchise here. This setting is called ShadeSong, and I've talked about it before a few times, both in the community posts on my page and in a few of my previous videos. This will include the creation of a novel series. So to that effect, I hope by late 2026, roughly a year from now, to launch the Kickstarter for the release of ShadeSong. Ideally, I hope to have 2 starter box sets available at launch, with hopefully a few army expansion packs available should all go particularly well with the Kickstarter. And you would think, oh, that'll be easy given how successful, say, Trench Crusade was with their launch. Well, there's a problem with that. And that is the fact that the people behind Trench Crusade are seasoned game makers and writers. I'm just a guy. Now, granted, I do have a very detailed setting created, with a political history, kingdoms, deep lore on both the micro and macro scale, and a lot of units already designed. However, I am no game designer, so I will need to hire someone who can write the rules based on some ideas I already have, such as how I actually intend for the core gameplay loop to actually be done with D10s. Say you have a character who has a 60% chance to hit. So, with his musket, he will hit on 0, 9, 8, 7, 6, or 5, with 0 being a double damage critical hit, and 4s, one below his hit threshold, being a grazing shot, which only does 1 damage and does not proc any status effects, such as fire, entangling, confusion, or others, and the units for the game being organized as such. The lowest are regular infantry units, either melee, ranged, or both, which can be weaker, more cannon fodder-esque auxiliary units, or sturdier ones. Then there are cavalry units, who can be either light cavalry that can fire during their movement phase, or heavy cavalry that can do damage by directly charging into units and knock them out of the way. Then there are elite units, who are usually like infantry units, be they ranged, melee, or both, with special abilities, more health, and more damage. Then there are artillery/vehicle units, which are exactly what they sound like. Very large, with a lot of health, and a certain way of being used. Then there will be support units, which are actually more frail units that have large status effects that can aid your army. And at the very top are Abomination class units, which are very large, powerful units with a lot of health, but that need a support unit very close to them in order to be able to be used to their full effectiveness. If that support unit is either killed or not present, you run the risk of your Abomination type unit either suffering breakdowns if it's mechanical, not functioning to its full effect if it's magical, or going berserk if it's a real monster. So with that in mind, you need to be careful about how you use your Abominations. Do you want to rush in and try to get the most out of them, but also risk your support unit in the process? Or do you want to be more cautious and sort of babysit your support with the Abomination, but also run the risk of not properly utilizing that big resource-heavy unit? Furthermore, would you prefer, say, the Rabeni army, which has lighter 2-damage muskets, and more units given that they are less expensive? Or do you prefer the Arborine Empire, which has heavier 3-damage muskets, and has less units, but is thusly more effective at chopping through, say, cavalry and elites? Would you like an army that's heavier and more focused on mobility and maneuver, or a heavier army that can actually create its own cover? Furthermore, there are also something called morale units, which are actually very small, cheap units that you can bring with your army that can create a minor aura buff. As I'm sure many of you can tell, I am not experienced in tabletop game design, so I need to hire someone who is. But more importantly, I want to hire someone who will work for a flat fee and not try to, say, muscle in on the business I'm trying to create. I know that sounds bad, but it's always a possibility that someone will say, hey, I helped write the rules, therefore I should be given half the company and half of the profits. You see, at the end of the day, I'm trying to create a successful business, so I need to be cognizant of how it is to work with someone who can help design the game, someone who can help write the rule book, someone who can help model and print the minis, a packager and distributor who can box them properly and ship them out to people, and so on, as well as novelists who can help bring this setting to life in the way that I see it in my head, as well as keep people continually engaged and invested in this world I'm putting so much love and care into, and get them interested in all the factions. Like, 40k novels are what got me to where I am today. So the idea of someone eventually making videos on the lore of ShadeSong and reading those novels just makes me really happy and is something I really want to happen one day. Like, I know I'm trying to run a successful business, but I also want to do right by the community. I want to give back and create a space similar to the one I found when I first got into Warhammer all those years ago. So I need to hire all the right people. To that effect, I'm currently looking into professionals I can contract for this work. I have some names in mind. I need to make sure that I have a lock on the IP, so it can't be wrenched out of my hands through some legal chicanery. I need to ensure that I'm running a successful, profitable business. I want to be sure that I'm doing right by the community that has given me so much. And I want to make sure that I am fairly paying and compensating everyone I contract and work with, from artists to developers to writers to modelers and so on. Because listen, I'm just the kind of person where if I feel like I'm screwing somebody for my own benefit, I'm not gonna sleep at night. That's the reason why I'm giving myself at least a full calendar year to get all of this sorted out. But it's going to be a lot of work, and I really hope you guys are rooting for me as I undertake this project and hopefully build something that you guys will really like. However, I'm not comfortable launching the Kickstarter until I have everything locked down. You know, I have all the right people contacted, I know all their rates for work, I know exactly how much money I need to raise, and so on. Because if I launch a Kickstarter and then can't deliver, like, I just could not live with being that guy. You know, the guy who had a cool idea and generated hype and launched a Kickstarter, but then just couldn't get it off the ground because he ran into the hurdles of logistics. Like, no, I'm not gonna let that happen. So I need to be 1000% sure that I can make this work before I collect even a cent of donation. However, there is an exception, that being merchandise. I do hope to start selling a little bit of ShadeSong merchandise, as well as merch for the regular channel. You know, stickers, coffee mugs, keychains, and the like, to hopefully raise a little bit of capital to get things off the ground and gauge interest. Because in that way, even if things don't end up going anywhere and the project fails, people who gave me money for the project will have at least gotten something out of it, even if it's just stickers or a t-shirt or even a hoodie. Interestingly, I'm actually in talks with an animator to create an animated trailer for ShadeSong that I can use to promote the Kickstarter, and the money from merchandise sales would absolutely go to that. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think ShadeSong will get anywhere? Do you guys think I will be successful with the channel in the coming year? I really hope you guys think so, because it would really mean a lot to me if you did. As always, I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. Please subscribe if you have not already done so. Thank you all so much for a wonderful year, and until then, I will see you in the next video.